Hey everyone, how's it going? What you're about to see here is an epic conversation that I recently had with Ikenna about languages and language learning and all that stuff. Originally, I wasn't actually planning on using the entire thing, which is why I didn't record the Skype so you can see his face and everything and you just have the camera on me. I was just going to use a little clip of it and maybe put it in my vlog. But, you know, it actually was really amazing and I think that a lot of you are going to enjoy it, and it's going to be, I'm predicting, maybe not, we'll see, but I'm predicting it's going to be a piece of content that gets quite a few views and quite a few likes on this channel. So sit back, grab some coffee, grab some tea, you know, snuggle up and enjoy the next, you know, give or take hour of conversation here. What's up, man? Nice to talk. I've seen some of your videos. I've checked out your Instagram and your YouTube as well. Even I think starting from a few months ago. You know, and I respect your hustle. I see how you're conquering it with the languages, and I'm always, you know, really happy to talk to someone with similar passions. I mean, that's the coolest thing. So what languages exactly do you speak? Is it English, French, and Mandarin Chinese? Did I get that right? So English, French, and Spanish are relatively equally fluent. Yeah. And then I speak Gujarati with my family, but I'm not 100% fluent by any means. And then Mandarin I've been learning for about 3.5 years, and I speak decently. I'm not perfect, but I'm okay. I see. Yeah. Nice. I have a lot to learn on Mandarin, so. It seems like it's going to be quite the grind, because I just started with my Mandarin maybe a week ago. Oh, really? Yeah. Because I finished up 6 months of French, and I got to the point where I could understand, I basically hit my goal, where I was able to have hour-long conversations in French, and I could understand TV shows without subtitles and all that stuff. Phone interviews, a lot of interviews. How did you do that in 6 months, out of curiosity? What did you say? How did you do that in 6 months, out of curiosity? Like, what did it look like? Actually, the cool thing is I have a whole transformation video kind of coming out. So from the beginning, when I was like very American, like bonjour, monsieur, like kind of that typical thing, just 6 months, just like basically every week I recorded my progress. That's gonna be coming out, but it was a mixture. I usually start. I mean, I'm assuming you know a lot of the programs when it comes to like language learning. For example, Pimsleur or Assimil, or because I started off with Pimsleur. I always do that for the first month. Got through everything that I have, and maybe it was in half a month. And then after that, I switched to Assimil to get myself to more of an intermediate stage, but I was very lucky because since Azren is a French company, they have both the advanced level and also the one that's supposedly to take you to C1, although it doesn't really, maybe more B2, B1 or something like that. And then they have the earlier stage one. So I used all of that in addition to watching countless hours of TVs and TV shows in French, and yeah, eventually kind of just clicked. The good thing is as well is because it's not, I mean, you know it, speaking French as well, the vocabulary isn't like, you can make out, especially with anything that ends with the ENCE, you can make out, or ION, you can make out what it is, right? But as you know, with Chinese, you don't really have that luxury. You know? Same thing with Russian, same thing with Japanese, it's like, it's harder. You know, you can do that, but with French, I could, and that was something I really liked. It's kind of similar with Dutch as well, because since Dutch is a Germanic language, it has a lot of similarities with English. So, for example, if you want to say like, what is that? It's what is that? You know, it's like, it was like, oh, this is so good, you know. But then the second that you get into something that really isn't connected too much to English, it starts to become a bit harder. But yeah, French. Interesting. French was nice. How did you, you did Pimsleur first or Assimil first? Pimsleur. And then you did, Assimil. What, I know of the programs, I know what they are. I'm not like, I don't exactly know how they're structured. Like, how do they work? So Pimsleur, what Pimsleur will do is they have 30-minute lessons, and usually each CD will have 30 of those. Yep. So, 30 times 30 in terms of minutes. So, usually they have, I think, 2 or 3 CDs, but I never get to the second or the third CD. And is it just listening? Like, what's the content? I know the general structure. What's the content?
It's just listening. It's really
Okay.
to kind of hone in on introducing you to the language. It's perfect for that, but also getting your pronunciation down from the get-go. Because,
Oh, okay.
you know, for example, I see it a lot when people start to study grammar first and they start to kind of, you know, go straight into the textbooks and don't have any kind of auditory, like, input. Like, you know, when it comes to pronunciation, they've already kind of got those mistakes ingrained.
Right.
So it gets you right to it, and then it takes you to not even an A1 level. It depends. If you do all of it, maybe an A1 level. But it's like, it gets you a decent understanding. And once you have that decent understanding, you can go straight into ASML. Because ASML, like, it's supposed to be for beginners as well, but they don't sugarcoat shit in the beginning. Like, if you had no French input and you went straight into the French ASML, it's going to be too overwhelming, you know? But you do a little bit of Pimsleur, you get into it. And hopefully, if ASML has both the beginner and the advanced course, it takes you, if you couple it with TV shows and other like practice, it takes you, I say, B1, B2 level.
And it's similar kind of thing, like it's CDs and audios and.
ASML is much more comprehensive. So basically, what they'll have is they have it's a textbook and it's audio as well. So you go through it, and basically with their method, it's like, you go through each lesson, they give you, it's like a story, maybe 1 to 2 minute story. You go over each lesson roughly 6 to 7 times. Certain times you will like speak it out loud. Certain times you will speak, like you will practice, translating it, or sometimes reading out loud in the language that you're learning. And then after that, you have a little bit of exercises, fill in the blanks and stuff like that.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, they really make it so it's ingrained into your head by the time you're done with that lesson. Each lesson is supposed to take around 30 minutes, even though it's only 2 minutes of content.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you really get it ingrained. And after that, what else?
Sorry, there's a fruit fly. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
I think I got it anyway.
Yeah, I think with ASML, it's been very, very crucial to everything that I've done. Unfortunately, for Japanese and Russian, because those were ones I just started when I was very young, I didn't really make use of it. So those ones, they're not necessarily weaker, but they're, I guess, maybe less comprehensive than the other languages I know, just because it's like that initial base wasn't there. My initial base for Russian and Japanese comes more so from TV shows, which, you know, sometimes isn't the best way to draw it from, but that's like what's like core to me.
Right.
So at least for Russian it's fine, but Japanese you get a bit too teenager-ish kind of language. But
so for French,
right.
like how many? Because you said 6. Like how many hours generally would you study in a day or a week, or would you work on it?
Usually an hour of direct practice, and it could be anywhere between. That's daily, and then anywhere between an hour to 2 of watching TV.
Okay.
When I'm watching TV as well, it's an active experience. At least I try to make. Sometimes you get lazy, but usually I will translate up there with a little notebook, and you know, whenever. And it's really cool because you associate words very quickly, especially if, like, for example, if it's a big scene and, you know, the mother is taking. The people are taking the son away from the mother, and the mother's crying, and she's going, "Arrête, arrête." You remember that. You remember that much more so if you have to read, okay, arrête, you know, s'il vous plaît, it affects you more.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I definitely make use of, and it's fun as well. I mean, I can watch a TV show. You watch 24 and all in French. Watch you fucking the whole of many Netflix TV shows, because we're lucky because they dub it into French. But like, for example, 13 Reasons Why.
Right.
I tried to watch it in the American accent. I couldn't really. I was just like, Hannah Baker, why are you doing it? I'm like, I don't know. Being in Europe, it does something when I do that American accent. But once I hear it in French, it's Hannah Baker. I'm like, oh shit, you know? Like,
yeah.
This sounds more, you know. This sounds more doable. It's just that kind of. Also Marco Polo, I'm not sure if you watched that, but it's like, about like Mongolian Empire, and when they were speaking in English, they had some Australian kind of accent. I was like, why are these, you know, Mongolian warlords speaking in an Australian accented form of English? It doesn't sound weird. It just sounds weird. But then the second I turned it in French, and they had these deep French commanding voices, and obviously at the time I didn't know French, it just sounded legit, you know. Obviously I just didn't want it to be in English because it's like it doesn't make sense. But when it's a foreign language, it's cool. But yeah, so that's how I usually learn. How do you
cool.
usually go about starting with a language? Although the last time you started was what, three years ago?
Yeah, last time I started one was 3.5.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, for Mandarin.
Which ones do you want to get into as well? What's on your wish list?
So my list is I'll get to a C1 or higher in English, French, Spanish, Gujarati, Hindi, Russian, Arabic, Mandarin.
Damn.
So that'll take me time. That'll take me, because the thing for me is I want to be able to have obviously like the conversational, like the slang, to be able to watch TV, and if I just go to a bar with a Russian dude, I'd like to be able to just chat and stuff, right? Yeah. But on the other hand, I also really want, for me, it's important to have the academic knowledge. Like, I want to be able to write a 20-page paper.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to do that. So, like, French and Spanish, I majored in those languages, right? So I majored in them. I actually did all my school's in French my whole life. My whole life. I lived in France. I took university classes in France. Spanish, I majored in it as well. Started in high school. So I have, like, an academic background. For Mandarin... So I'm going back to, I'm actually doing a second degree, assuming the university accepts me. I assume they will, but I'm doing a second degree in the winter in Mandarin. So actually, technically East Asian language studies, but it's a concentration in Mandarin. So like that side's really important for me. So I always tend to do, usually I always do some sort of classroom, but then I also do a lot of like outside the classroom. Like I always travel to the country that speaks that language. Always. Yeah. So I lived in China last year for a bit. I've lived in France for a while, South America for a while. And then I'll also, I'll watch TV and music. So like we have a multicultural, I recently discovered we have a multicultural radio station in my city. And they have they have different languages at different hours. They have a different schedule. And so I listen to, now when I'm driving, I'll try to catch the Spanish hours, the French hours, and the Mandarin hours. I'll try and catch them as I'm driving. And because I realized recently that my Spanish and French are very, very fluent. They're extremely fluent. Yeah. However, I have very minimal contact with a native content in French, Spanish. So what happens is that there's very little happening around me that's really improving my those languages. So I'm kind of where I am, and it improves minutely as I teach. I teach languages as I teach, things like that. But there's nothing where it's like I hear it and I go, oh, interesting. Like yesterday I was driving, and they're just talking about there's like some radio ad for like mortgages. Right? And they're talking about mortgage rates in Calgary in my city, and I was like, oh, cool. And it was interesting hearing. It's like, oh yeah, right, hipoteca is mortgage in Spanish, and this. I was like, oh right, like I knew it, but I hadn't heard it in a while. Right? So like, and all of a sudden you get different types of vocab, and you hear them say things like, what was it that stood out so much? Obviously it didn't stand out enough, because I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was, it must have been, oh yeah. Like as I'm listening to the ad, there's certain words they're using in Spanish, but they're using the English word, and I just didn't know that would be appropriate, right? Because I hadn't heard it. And I was like, oh, interesting. Book, that's what it was. Right? It's like, oh, they're trying to say you can book an appointment. Yeah. And the lady was I'm 99% sure she's from Mexico, very pretty Mexican accent. Yeah, and she's going like, yeah, you can book una cita, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing, right? So it's interesting when you start to engage with the native content, you catch things, you hear things, and I don't have a lot of that, so.
Yeah. So would you say that your active vocabulary is kind of slipping a bit in terms of?
It's more that it doesn't get used, right? So sometimes it's more like often.
Rusty.
Yeah, maybe. Let's say this: when you go really specific into a topic, if we go really narrow into a specific topic in Spanish or French, like on any topic, things in a house. Things in a house. I know all the things in the house, but if you go like, okay, window, great, window frame, cool, window sill, I don't know, or like the lock on the window, I don't know, or like the or like if you look at this desk, if I go like desk, great, phone, pens, all this stuff, but if I go like, here we go, like there's a thing right here, there's a little memory, like memory card for like cameras right there. I don't know. I don't know. Right? Like when you're really small, and then when you tell me the word, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I knew that. I just haven't used it in so long that it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to. I understand. Yeah, especially if you're in the midst of a conversation and you don't want to spend 10, 20 seconds thinking about what is that.
Yeah.
Memory is a word for memory card, so you just kind of like.
And here's the weird thing. I bet I would, if I was a scientist, I do the research on it, but I'm not a scientist. What I've noticed, if I go to a country or region that speaks Spanish, within a week, everything's back. Everything, like within a week, all those little, it's like I'm just there, and my brain, like, just over a week, it just switches back into it. It's like, oh, I remember now.
It's really cool how that happens.
It's weird because it's not even like there's 20 new words that are unlocked. It's kind of like, oh yeah, remember those thousands of words that you couldn't remember in Canada? And after a week, it's like, oh yeah, I knew that. All of a sudden it's there, and it's like all the slang comes back, everything just comes back, and it's like, I feel like because I'm in Canada, every day I'm switching, so I teach so many languages. So I'm always switching between languages, and like, I feel like I like scratch the surface of Spanish, and then I switch to French. Scratch the surface, switch back to English. So I'm always changing what language I'm teaching. Versus if you're in like Spain, or you're in France, or you're in Peru, you're in whatever, all of a sudden you do some Spanish and you dig right past that little surface, and all of a sudden you access this wealth of stuff that was always there. It was always there. You just never spent enough time in it in your own city. So that's what I feel like it's like. So my French and Spanish are very good, but when I'm in Calgary, there's a lot of like more like, maybe, I don't know if complex is the word, maybe less frequent words that just either takes me a second to go, what is that word again? Or I just go, wow, I can't think of it, but I look and it's like, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, I understand. Like, for example, which one should I use? Like for Dutch, when I went to Netherlands and I moved here and I went to university, we had a 9-day introductory period, and by period I mean it was just like literally just parties every single night. I'm not even sure if a lot of American universities do it, because technically you can drink over here when you're 18. It might be the same in Canada. I'm not sure the
18.
the age, but in America you don't. So you literally had beer companies sponsoring. Like officially partnering with the university to do this kind of kick-in event, which in America it doesn't happen. That's like fucking illegal, right?
Yeah.
But over here, my Dutch was I'd say was pretty decent before that event. But going to that event, being in a group of I think 8 other Dutch people, there was one person that didn't understand Dutch, but she was sick the whole time. So it was literally just me and 8 other Dutch people. Right, just partying and drinking and doing like obstacle courses and all this different stuff. Right, I swear by the end of that week or that 9 days, I was like I could understand drunk Dutch people going talking like 50 minutes or 50 words per second, and I could understand it. And now I understand what you're saying, where it's kind of like more of a surface level. Like now, like if I'm to speak Dutch with someone, I'm comfortable with it. I can understand them, like, no problem. But, that level of comfort where it was just like, it was second nature. I didn't even have to think about it with my Dutch after once you hit that 7th, that 8th day. Yeah. And it's crazy because if I were to do something like that again, it would return, and probably even in better form, considering now I know a bit more vocabulary that I've, passively kind of perfected. So it just... I think Steve Kaufman, one of the
yeah.
I try to watch some of his videos. They go on quite. He likes to talk a lot, but like one of the things I picked up was that he kind of said that learning languages, it's just a consistent process. Like there was never a point where kind of his Japanese or whatever was the best. At like a younger age, like it just keeps on building and building and building and building, and if he gets back into it, it'll be the best that it'll be his new prime essentially. Yeah. And I really like that because it's like, one of the things I was scared of once I started probably getting to my 3rd or 4th language is like, oh shit, what happens if I start forgetting it? But you never really do. It's like riding a bike; it comes back to you after a while. So it's a relief almost. It's a relief. That's so part of the reason why. A lot of, I think, polyglots don't like to say they speak a certain amount of languages, because it's like you have to revive them, maybe spend a week reviving them, and then they'll feel confident about their ability. But let's say you haven't, for me, like if I haven't spoken Russian properly, immersed myself for the last 5 months or something like that. And someone says, "Oh, you speak Russian?" I'll be like, "Yeah, I do, but just give me a week.
Yeah.
I can really speak it, you know."
It's like, call me back in a week. Let's grab drinks. And, yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, if I spend that week just, maybe 4 or 5 hours a day just watching TV and just studying it a little bit, like within that week, it will not even be back to that same. It will be better. So it's crazy how that happens.
Yeah.
But so what kind of drew you to language learning, especially with Mandarin? Because I know you already spoke roughly 4 beforehand, and now, not now, but 3 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, we cut out. Oh no. Oh shoot. Oh, you're back. Good. You cut out for a sec. We're good.
So what prompted? Oh shit! I guess I'm cracking. We're good.
We're good.
Okay, I think so. So what kind of prompted that?
Mandarin.
Getting you into Mandarin and language learning.
When I was about 15, I went to France on an exchange trip for 3 months, and it was interesting because at the time I wanted to learn. At that time I liked languages, and I think I just liked them just because. I'm trying to remember this actually because I used to have a very different answer until I said something to someone. I thought back and I realized it wasn't what I used to think it was. So at the time, I think I liked languages when I was about 15. I did French my whole life, and I think going into high school, you have to pick option classes. You have to pick like electives. Yeah. And I was looking through the elective options, and I didn't really like any of them. I was like, I don't want to do foods class. I don't want to learn how to build stuff. I don't want to do dance. I don't want to do drama. And I was like, well, there's Spanish that was offered. And I was like, well, there's Spanish. I mean, Spanish, well, I guess I've done languages a while. I'm comfortable. That wasn't out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And I was like, I want to do Spanish. But the problem was that I was going to France that semester where Spanish was offered, and I couldn't take it. And in France, the Spanish they taught in grade 10 was like more advanced than a beginner. Yeah. Because they start sooner, right? So I couldn't take it there. And so when I was in France, I used to go on different websites. I try and teach myself best I could because I wanted to come back. And the other thing I was worried about is that my friends were taking the introduction Spanish class. And I was like, crap, I don't want to come back and then be in the intro class when my friends are in the higher class. Like, that sucks.
Yeah, that would suck. Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to teach myself the intro class. And I did, which I was very proud of myself at the time, but really there's not much to it. It's not much you're teaching yourself. It's pretty simple. So I taught myself Spanish, the intro level. I wrote some placement tests. They didn't even test my oral stuff, which was amazing because that's probably where I would have dropped the ball. Because in France, I just went through worksheets online. I just read and I would guess how to pronounce it. I didn't look on YouTube. I don't think. I mean, this is 2007, so I mean, YouTube was brand new at the time. It was just come out, so it wasn't like a big thing where you'd YouTube stuff. So I was find websites and everything. And, I came in, and then I liked Spanish, decided to major in it, and then I forget when it was, but there was a time where I decided, I should learn a bunch of languages. And then I did that. I eventually, when I graduated university, I ran a window cleaning business for a while. So I actually ran one from the age of 18 to 24, so pretty recent. Okay. And then, have you heard of Tim Donor?
Of course, I fucking know Tim, yeah.
So weirdly, I don't know how it happened, but it came somehow. I don't forget how it happened, but it was like I think a suggested video or something, and I was watching.
You as well, huh?
What's that?
He motivated you as well.
No, he made me mad.
Oh, okay.
Because I saw him, and it was like 17-year-old speaks 20 languages, and I was pissed because I'm competitive. So I was like, he's getting all these accolades. I was like, and my thought, this is. I don't know if well, I'll say it, but I was like, I'm better than him, and he's getting all these accolades. If I had started younger, it would be me in that video. I was like, oh my god, and I was so angry, and I was like, and I started to Google stuff like hyper polyglot, and I language conf. I was like, wait, this is the thing. People do this. Like, I was like, how do they make money? Can they work? Do they? And I was like, and I remember calling my friend the next day, like, dude, I'm gonna do this. Like, I want to do this. And my buddy's like, oh, what do you mean you want to do this? Like, I'm going to do languages. He's like, what does that even mean, man? I was like, I don't know. And my friend likes languages too. He speaks quite a few. But, and then, from there I was like, I kind of sat on it for a little while. And then would have been September of 2016 or end of August, early September, I was like, well, I can start making videos at a minimum. I don't know what I'll do, and so I started that, and And yeah, so he actually made me mad because I was like, I want to beat this guy. And I was also mad because when I was reading the comments, no fault of Tim, by the way, not on his at all. But when you read the comments, people would say like, you know, it's almost like they didn't understand that he wasn't fluent in over 20.
Yeah. No,
like,
back then when I first saw it, I just, you know, I think he did mention something about like he did state in this video like, you know, the ones that I'm good with.
Yeah, he does. He's very clear on it.
Down.
He's very upfront. No fault of his own. But when I'm reading and I was like, I forget. I don't remember what the comments were, but I remember like I got the feeling like he's not fluent in 20. Like we need to get this straight because it's super impressive. No doubt about it. It's like
even,
bow down to
even
you.
If it's 5 at 17 that most of
Absolutely.
He learned himself. Like fair enough. You know?
Absolutely. But like my thing was like one of the things I thought about in the moment was, it's interesting how. So here's what this is really fascinating. It's interesting how I'd be curious in your thoughts. It's interesting how if let's say there's 2 people in a room, 2 people standing on a stage, and you have like 1,000 people in an audience. Yeah. One of them says, "I speak 20 languages with varying levels of fluency. Some are some are intermediate, some are beginner." And then someone goes, "I speak 5, but I basically speak them at like an extremely deep and high level." My bet would be that of the 1,000 people audience, most would go, "Oh yeah, the 20's better."
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And I think that's silly.
Well, because they're hedging their bets as well. They're thinking, okay, if this guy speaks 20, and this guy speaks 5 really well, well maybe this guy who speaks 20 speaks 4 pretty damn well, and then he has another 16 that kind of that overcompensate for the 5. But I mean it's I agree with you. It's people will never know how good or bad someone is with the language if they just don't read any other comments from native speakers. They just see it for themselves. Go
ahead. Sorry, I'll let you finish. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah. Like when I was in Amsterdam, I randomly bumped into this dude. Extremely weird. The guy was from Suriname, had some Asian descent, had some black descent, but it essentially looked like a black guy, right?
Yep.
The guy was fluent maybe in, I think, 6 languages, English, Dutch, and the other 4 being Indian languages. So you would have to imagine my surprise when, you know, and he's visibly black, like he's an Indian or anything. When this Indian guy in Amsterdam essentially lost, right? He was like, I don't know what's happening. He comes and asks us a question, kind of something mumbled, kind of English or Dutch, I'm not sure what it was. And the guy was like, he like rotated through 4 languages to find out which language the guy speaks, and he swapped to what I think it was Hindi. I don't even remember.
Sure.
But my jaw was just like, he could have spoke it not too well, but then again, he was an older guy. He spoke it with confidence. I wouldn't have known, you know. But he might not have been grammatically perfect. But like, I was some crazy thing. Like when I saw it in person, you know, and other people have that same effect, especially with me, because I don't look like I can speak the majority of the languages that I speak. Well, at least Dutch speak Russian and Japanese. I don't look Russian or Japanese really. So when I'm speaking English with someone, and then when my Japanese friend comes, I'm like, yo, genki guy, like, and people like, you know, it's really bizarre, and I think what it comes down to is people either one don't value the fact, you know, how well you can speak a language, because I think past a certain point you hit diminishing returns. Like let's say you can speak this language like a poet. You can be the next Christopher Hitchens. You can be the next whatever, you know, best orator in the world in French and English. But then you have this other guy over here who speaks French to a level where he can express himself, and you know, and he basically can get everything across. Like for a lot of people, there's not much of a difference.
Yeah.
Really. So
and for practical reasons, there really isn't a ton. Like for work or for like you don't necessarily need the poet or the orator. You might just need someone who's like just solid B2, you know, kind of level.
Yeah. So I mean, that's where I think it comes from. But I think you're still motivated as well, motivated by a bit more so anger or like a little bit jealousy, and I was definitely jealous as well. I was like, I saw that, I was like, you know, it's just like kind of like that visceral like could you imagine if I was in that place? You know, like that kind of like if that was me. And one of the reasons why I started learning languages is I kind of fell into Japanese. I was big into gaming when I was younger, so I have that solid nerd background. Like
Nice.
I was like, you know, I used to have run a professional gaming team.
No way.
Yeah, with people from all different backgrounds.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
Okay.
So back when I was 15, 14 years old, I was managing people up anywhere between 25 to 30 years old, and like we hired this guy who was a sniper team leader in the U.S. Army for 7 years, and he was like the guy who was helping me with my leadership skills and all that. Like it was crazy. We had one guy in Dubai who was a sheik, literally I think the sons of one of the richest people in all of Dubai, and who flew the European gaming team to Germany to rent out a gaming house for 2 weeks. Like I met some crazy people, and they kind of, I guess, brought on the maturing process. But one of the gamers that was in this thing, he was big into anime, so he sent me an anime, and I was like, bro, I'm not into this. And then he was like, no, listen, it's about guys who are stuck in a game and they can't get out. I'm like, fuck, that's amazing concept. Let me watch that. And like the second I got hooked, I rewatched some of the Hayao Miyazaki, like I'm not sure if you know, like Spirited Away, like movies like that. That I used to watch when I was really little, and that had a very like profound emotional impact on me, because I was like, holy shit, I remember this, and I started started watching Japanese dramas, and somewhere down the line I was like, okay, this language seems cool. I wonder if I could learn it, and that was kind of the initial thing. And then once I started getting good with Japanese, my thought was, could you imagine if the world was like Matrix, a movie where you could just download like 20 languages into your head? And then I kind of thought, like, well, actually, you know what? I have time. Which I realized, I was like, I have time.
Yeah.
It's going to take a fuckload of, it's going to take, I'm not sure what parts are you recording, so I don't want to curse so much, but...
Dude, if you're cool with it, I'd love to post our entire conversation.
Yeah, sure enough.
Okay.
It's going to take a lot of work, but at the end of the day, I'm always a future, very visionary, like futuristic kind of person. I'm always planning. I'm like, I think when I was 16, 17 years old, I was trying to plan which schools in which country my kids should go to and for how long. Like when I was like 16 years old.
Interesting.
You know, and like, I've always been that. So to see that kind of future version of myself 10 years down the line that speaks, or at least in this case, it'll probably be four years down the line that speaks 12 languages at, let's say, around B1 level, well, apart from English, right? At, like, let's say a B1 level, B2 level, and can just connect, which is the most important thing, connect with people regardless, you know? That, not only is that kind of like almost like a spy, that's really cool. That's some James Bond Limitless kind of thing right there. But at the same time, it's just like, it just takes the work. It just takes the time. It's consistency. It's putting in the work day in, day out. You know, even just a little bit here, a little bit here. But, you know, it just takes time.
Do you think there'll be a day, I'm curious, when I say in the day, I mean future, maybe after our lifetimes, a day where it actually might not be as necessary to learn a language? So, for example, you have an ear implant where literally someone talks and just goes right to your language.
Whenever those things come out, I mean, that's like, I'm very big on progress, but that's like the one area of progress I'm like, just shut up, keep it, you know.
Yeah. I think it's coming though. I think it's coming. Like, I think it's far off, but.
I mean, I think maybe give it 30, 40 years if you want it to kind of have that, because it's there technically with the Google Translate, and even 20 years it will be an improved version, but it's never. I don't think it's going to 100% replace it until, you know, I mean, until this thing can translate slang, can translate Chinese, you know, idioms like into idioms, into tangible, meaningful, you know, things. Especially the Chinese, because the Chinese have like, you know, sayings for every single thing. Don't look a lion in its face. Like they'll have all this thing. Like, like, you know, I've been watching this Chinese TV show, The Disguiser. It's about 1940s Shanghai and the Japanese occupation, which is really sick because the Chinese characters speak Japanese characters when they're speak Japanese. So I can like, I'm like, I don't understand.
And suddenly,
it's because they switch. But like, literally in this thing, there's so many like, don't do this because the wind doesn't chime in a certain way in the morning. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's not. But I mean, when you get to that level of accuracy, sure. But I mean, for me, I mean, I'm hoping it doesn't happen for a very long time out of kind of selfish reasons, because my cool goal is to have, like, if you come from Indian background, I come from Nigerian background, probably quite used to like large families and kind of that, right? So for me, I never was keen on having a large family. I just wanted one kid until I realized, I kind of like hedged my bets. Like, wait, if you only have one kid and that kid, like, something happens to that kid, you're 50 or 60 years old, and your kind of life is over, right? So I was like, I'm gonna go the traditional Nigerian route. I really want a lot of kids, actually. I think maybe 5, 6, or 7. And could you imagine if all these little munchkins were running around in 10 different languages? Let's say by the time they're 15 or 16 or 17, holy, that's like, that is so cool. Like, they're just yelling it in Chinese, like, oh yeah, just all that stuff. That's really cool. So I mean, there's my future goals again. But I mean, hey, it's I think it's gonna happen. I just have to put in the work, especially with the kids part. But like, one of the biggest people the people that inspire me the most right now. I'm not sure if you know the girl called Bella. I can't even remember.
I do. I know Bella. I know who you're talking about. I've seen her actually. I've seen her in person.
Yeah. Oh really?
Yeah, sure. When I was out in August of this year, there's a Langfest. So her mom gave a whole talk about it, and she was there. And
man, I'm so jealous right now because I'm literally their mom did an interview with some German guy for like 40 minutes. I watched the whole thing because like it's practical, because then like not now but like in the future.
Later.
Like I mean I see this girl, I'm just like the mom posts stuff on Instagram as well. Recently the Halloween, and they invited a French family or something like that, and like I'm like,
I saw it.
Oh, I mean, how it is. I'm like, as anyone with languages, like, that girl is gonna have so many experiences in life that it probably physically impossible, like 20 years ago, and for the remainder of the past, just she's gonna have a life that I couldn't even imagine, especially if she gets to travel a lot. So that really excites me. So that's really cool. You saw, what were your kind of 1 or 2 takeaways you took from that whole conference? What kind of really stuck out to you, or
weirdly not a lot. Only because I went. So the weird thing. So here's where I get a little weird. I don't really overly follow anyone for language learning stuff. I don't watch people's videos because I usually watch 60 seconds and you go, yeah, you're right. You get it. You hear what they're saying, you're like, yeah, you're right. You kind of know where it's going. They're right. And you get it, right? So I don't follow a lot. So I went to the conference more for networking reasons anyway. It was more to meet people. That's the only reason I really went. So I went to the talks based on who was giving them and or who was in the room. So if I met someone and there, I was like, oh, we're friends? Where are you going? Oh, you're going there? Yeah, that sounds cool. Let's do it.
Practical, okay.
There's a couple I did for selfish reasons. So I went, for example, to a Mandarin workshop for fun. I was like, I want to check that out. But generally, there was one day I skipped half a day of the talks because I'd met a friend and I was like, you know what? And they didn't want to go to one of the half the day. I was like, yeah, let's just hang out. I was more for the people and I was more there for that.
And how is that? I've never actually been to a language convention before. How is the atmosphere? How
cool.
is it?
Yeah, it was cool. It was a bunch of language. Imagine a bunch of language nerds in the same place, 300, 400 people, right? So.
Fair enough. It'd be nice to do a YouTube video in there, especially if you could speak, like, let's say in the future, like 8 languages, 9 languages, 12 languages, something like that could actually kind of go viral. If you just have a cameraman just take it into follow you in there, like a real life Tim Donor, except like more like I guess. You can see that you've actually mastered the language, and it's not like anything scripted or anything like that. But just, that'd be really cool, especially in like a kind of like fancy kind of environment where you're speaking Mandarin, you speak Spanish, you speak French, Russian. It's really cool. But what are some of the coolest, what are some of the most unique experiences that you've had? Because let's say I'm actually curious about Mandarin. What are some of the stories you have for Mandarin? Because that's more. Or my interest.
Stories for Mandarin. Well, I have a lot of stories for Mandarin. Where do you want me to take this?
It could be the most exciting thing that happened, the most strange thing, the most weird. I guess strange and weird are the same, but
Yeah. I think, I mean, for Mandarin, probably one of the memories that stands out the most is when I went to China for the first time.
Yeah.
Because I'd done Mandarin for about 6 months. I'd studied for 6 months, but I should be more specific. I hadn't really studied for 6 months. It's more like I just BS'd for 6 months.
Yeah.
I took 2 university classes, never showed up to class, or rare. Like I was working full time, so it was weird. It was hard to balance running the window cleaning business with going to class and doing homework, and it was just hard. So it just took a back burner. But I bought tickets for my China, and I was like, I was gonna go study there, and I was gonna be there for a while. So I went, and I was like, I could figure this out, and no problem, right? So I get there, and day one, they lose my suitcase. First of all, well, they didn't lose it. It just arrived after I arrived, which is fine. So day one, no suitcase. There's a lady with the school I was studying at that she met me. She took me to the homestay family who spoke basically virtually no English, right? Everything, first day was okay. We went to eat, she explained everything, cool. I was like, yeah, this is great. Next day, I found out my suitcase arrived at the airport.
Okay.
So I had to go to my school, go to my classes, after my classes, go to the airport, get my bag, then go to my homestay family. So that was kind of the plan for the day. So I go to my classes, no issues. Get there, no problem. Go to my classes, everything's fine. Lunchtime comes, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to grab some lunch. Now, I'm vegetarian.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't even know where to go. Like, I just walked out, I was like, I don't know, where do I eat? So I walk, and I go into the first little fast food kind of thing that I see. And then, obviously, nothing's in English, and it's all in Chinese. I can't read Chinese. So I was like, oh. And then I was like, and I thought, I'd asked my teacher, how do you say I'm vegetarian or something like that, but I didn't remember any of it. And I couldn't figure it out. So I was like, oh man, what do I do? I was like, how do I order? So I was like, okay, I got a strategy. So I went up, got the waiter, the person serving food, and I just said vegetable in Mandarin over and over. I was like, vegetable. They're like, what? I was like, vegetable. They're like, what? And I was like, vegetable. And they're like, no, but what do you want to eat? And I was like, vegetable. They're like, no, but what? Like, they're like pointing like at the menu and like what? Which one? I was like, vegetable. And they're like, but what? Like, what on the which? What? There's no vegetables. Like, vegetable. Eventually, they're like, so they just go back and they bring me like some eggplant and stuff. And that was it. I was like, man. And that was like like I feel like you sometimes learn language out of necessity. Like that's a really big motivator, necessity.
You never forgot the word for vegetable at all.
Well, no, not just that. Better than that, I was like, man, I need to learn some food words that I can eat so that if I walk in somewhere, I can order and I can get something. So I learned noodles, egg, and rice.
Okay.
So that way I could walk in somewhere, and I remember I was so proud of myself. I took a picture on Facebook. I was so proud. It's the most disgusting meal I've had, but still, I enjoyed it, like, immensely. I walked in, I said, I think I said, was it 2 or 1? I think it was 2 eggs, noodles, and rice. And what did I get? A bowl of plain noodles with, like, some soup, 2 eggs, and a thing of rice. I was like, yes, success.
Nice. Damn.
So that was a fun little story, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of my list, actually, so after Mandarin.
P.S. This is great. I have to head out I have to head out in 5 minutes, just so you know. I wish we can keep going, but I 5 minutes. I have to teach some French.
Yeah,
so.
No worries, no worries. Yeah,
which
so
sucks. This
Mandarin,
is great, but.
I want to do Spanish. After Spanish, it's going to be Egyptian Arabic.
Cool.
After Egyptian Arabic, it'd be like a short little tango with Italian, and after that,
tango with Italian, like
French and Spanish. Yeah. I mean, and after that, it's gonna be Korean, and I'm really excited to get to Korean as well because technically, if I get Chinese down good, and I go to Korean and I get that one, then I speak the big 3 when it comes to East Asian languages. So, like, if I ever meet an Asian person, right, at least an East Asian person, like, what will most likely happen is I'll say something in Japanese, like, oh, I don't understand. I say it in Chinese, I say it in Korean, it's like,
yeah,
that's gonna be the coolest experience.
Yeah.
But it's always nice to talk to someone who has very similar interests. It's language thing. It's life changing, I suppose.
Yeah.
In terms of crazy experiences, like I said this in a recent video, but basically what happened was I was downstairs in the place that I live in the gym, and 3 Russian dudes were in there. One from Latvia. They don't speak Russian. And I heard the Russian music. I was like, "Hey guys, are you Russian?" and they were like, yeah, we're Russian, we're Russian. We started talking, and then we became friends. And like literally the next day, one of them invites me out for some vodka, of course, just to have some fun. Apparently, one of the Russian dudes was friends with this French guy. I never met the dude before, but I just started talking to him. And he's like, "Hey, yo, come back to the place with us." So literally, I went from not knowing anyone to being friends with 3 Russian people to meeting this one French dude that brought me back to a place where I'm like partying with like 12 different French people, right? Which is a bizarre experience because I didn't know French like 6 months prior, right? And the only reason I was with them is because I spoke French, which is just
mind-blowing.
It's mind-boggling, especially as an American, because Americans were not necessarily too known to be, I guess, renowned with our language skills or even caring.
Sure.
But because you care, because you put in the work, you can have these experiences that are literally locked off, like a video game, like locked experiences that you don't get until you actually have all the experience points.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I to have that is really cool. So.
Last thing before we wrap up, I was talking to Camila.
Yeah.
And she's saying that you learn languages because you want to DJ in different countries in the world or something?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't initially, but after Japanese, after Russian, I got hit with the music virus. I really kind of fell in love with it. And I was like, what better thing to do? Because if you watch any of the big DJs, they are literally constantly traveling. One day Korea, one day China, one day back to the Netherlands. Okay, they stay in the Netherlands for Amsterdam dance event, then they go to US, then they go to Africa. So yeah, that's definitely part of the plan, 100%.
Interesting. Would you and what do you work now? You study? What do you do?
I'm studying music production at an academy over here in Holland.
Cool. Interesting. I'm just gonna throw this out there. This occurred to me as you were talking. Would you ever consider something like if you made a weekly video for my channel, like something like music of insert country here? Something to that effect?
Not. Just because of the fact that I do that with actually my music channel.
Oh, do you? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so I have one channel for self-development and languages, and I have another one for music. With the music, what I essentially do is exactly that, which is like, for example, I reacted to Dutch music, and because I speak Dutch, because I've lived here, the video went really well. I think it was at now over 300,000 views, so which is like 2% of the Dutch population. So like literally, because I knew the language and people, and because I'm from New York and I'm American, so rap and hip hop, whatever, people valued my experience and my perspective, but also, the fact that I spoke Dutch. So yeah, that's the thing that I'm already doing. Okay. Yeah. But if you want the link to it,
send it here.
It's
channel.
YouTube.com. Like I just did a rap actually in 5 languages.
Cool.
So in the ones that I spoke, it's been received okay so far. Yeah, I think there we go.
How do I say your name, by the way?
Ikenna. Yeah. So, and yours is Azren. How do you say the last name? Raju?
Raju, yeah.
Raju, okay.
Oh, so you just started your channel recently? Or rather, you've been posting frequently recently.
I've been posting constantly, starting recently.
Yeah, a month ago.
The other channel that's more self-development and self-improvement, that's been ongoing off and on for maybe a year, 2 years, something like that. But this one's more recent.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, it's definitely a crazy experience so far with that, but I'm glad I was able to find a way to kind of incorporate the languages into the music, and connect with people that way.
Do you make you make videos just for fun, or is it more for work purposes, like later for your own?
It's a mélange de deux. It's a bit of the both. So I do the YouTube channel for the music more so for fun, but. Obviously, the more people that know you, the better.
Yep.
And in terms of building your brand, especially as a DJ, I mean, that's what matters the most. It's like how many people know you.
Yep.
If you come to the club, will people recognize you and all that stuff. The self-development one, even though it's slower, is more so the kind of working kind of one, but I'm still passionate about it. It's just, if I want to teach someone a language, or want to sell an ebook, or I want to help someone improve their style, or their fitness, their body, like that's more monetizable than, kind of entertaining kind of music content.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's the answer.
Cool. Well, anyway, I gotta head out. Yeah, I gotta teach. So
yeah,
that was fun. It was fun. It was good chatting.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Always love chatting. So yeah, it was great to meet you, man.
Yeah.
And
I'll fire a link of this when it's all posted and stuff. So
yeah, perfect. Have a good time with your lesson.
Sounds good. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.